Hi folks, you might remember in a recent video I built a Dancing Wings Firebird kit using the motor and radio gear from my Savage Bobber. This left me thinking, what can I do with the old airframe from the Savage Bobber? I had some old 1S leftover parts from my F949S which I thought might be suitable. The Savage Bobber airframe only weighs about 100 grams, so it is quite a good candidate for 1S, and it might even fly a little bit better with a little bit less weight. The F949S came with triple motors and a 4-inch geared prop. This gave only about 40 grams thrust, but if that's not enough, I've got a backup plan for that. The radio gear was a 3-channel receiver with gyro and ESC built in, but this would limit me to just rudder and elevator. The transmitter is mode 2 and I'm more accustomed to mode 1, and it's also got really bad dead spots, but I like a challenge. So let's see how I got on with this little experiment. I'm here at the park and I'm about to try the Savage Bobber running on 1S. We'll see how this goes. The motors are starting to sound a bit sick there. I've just put the 800 mAh battery in. We'll see if that gives enough power. Try a bit of flap. During this test the motor detached, so that was the end of flight testing for today. Well, that didn't go too well. I think there just wasn't enough power from the old triple motors, which may be on the way out. We'll mark that attempt as a fail. I kind of predicted that the triple motors wouldn't work that well, so in the meantime I ordered a 1020 strong motor from AliExpress, which arrived in a couple of weeks. The 1020 strong motor comes with a larger 5-inch prop, which I hot glued into the foam rubber engine mount. This motor gave a lot more thrust, so I was a bit more optimistic about how this would fly. Here are some results from the thrust testing that I did with each of these batteries. As you can see from the weight to thrust ratio, this is quite viable to fly the Savage Bobber on 1S. From memory, I only got about 40 grams thrust from the triple motors, which for a model that weighs over 100 grams is pretty marginal. Let's go to the park and see how it went. And this is how I travel with the Savage Bobber on the carrier of my bike. Well, I'm out of the park. It's a little Savage Bobber with my 1020 strong motor conversion. So we'll see how it goes with the new motor. Now I'm not getting a great deal of power out of the 250 mAh battery, and I'm a little bit terrified that if I hit the up elevator it will do a stall, and I'm just managing to keep it above ground. I'm kind of battling here with the gyro and it's being a little bit disobedient and not going where I want it to go, so I've got to keep out of those trees. Flying, but only just. Trim it up a little bit. Going full bore. Oh, that wasn't too bad, I guess. Okay, we'll try this with a 500 mAh battery. It's more power there than the 250 mAh battery. This battery gave it a lot more power, so I was able to get some height at last. Looks like it wants to fly right. Okay, that's right. Now I'll try left. It's full left. Whoa, nearly hit the tree. I figured out what was going on here. I had mounted the motor pointing too far to the right, which made left turns really difficult. So I've since put a shim in to correct that, so next time I fly it I'll be able to test it out and see if it does left turns more easily.
Doing pretty gross movements here.
As well as continuing with flying mode 2, the transmitter that I'm using came with my F949S. It's pretty rubbish. It's got massive dead spots, so before you get any movement on the rotor or the elevator, there's a massive amount of movement or a dead spot in the middle, and then when you do hit the movement it's actually really sensitive, so I'm having to cope with that as well. I've noticed also there's quite a bit of wing flapping, and I think that's the gyro overcompensating, so not the most stable of flight.
Oh, I really need to try this high rate. Ah yes, I definitely need high rate.
Using high rate made it a bit more unstable.
Force it around.
So next time I'll try it with the motor a bit more centered. I'll try it flying with the gyro off, and I'll see how it goes with the 800 mAh battery, which has got even more power.
Oh, running out of power. Okay, around the park with the 500 mAh battery. I've got the motor a little bit more centered, not so far to the right, and we'll see how that goes. Good for right turns and good for left turns. Flying about half throttle at the moment. Okay, we'll gain a bit of height and see how we go with aerobatics. Then off stabilisation. See how long I can fly it for without crashing. Beautiful conditions, not a breath of wind. Turning stabilisation back on. I see it seems to be quite a good compromise between weight and power with the 500 mAh battery. If I go straight down and then pull up, nothing happens. Alright. If I put in high rate and I go full down and then pull up. Okay, stabilisation off, high rate, pull down, whoop, behind the tree.
Phew.
Try that again. High rate, stabilisation off. No, too scary. Seems to be virtually impossible to do the loop.
Right, I'm here out at the airfield and I'm about to test the Savage Bobber with the 800 mAh battery, which has a bit more thrust but adds a little bit more weight. We'll see how we go. A little bit of a breeze just popped up there.
Using about 80% throttle, I think. Okay, we're going to take it out of stabilisation mode in a minute. Right, that's out of stabilisation mode. Which is just crazy. I'll just get some height now, I think.
I had the same experience with my F949 with this gear. Combination of knee, mode 2, the transmitter and this gear just doesn't work out.
Got a little friend there. Some crow. Try high rate. Full power high rate. Pull down, pull up, and no way. We'll manage to take it out of stabilisation mode, I'm afraid. Right, pull down, pull up. Nope. No aerobatics. Okay, that's a bit disappointing. Try low pass. Flying nicely in the air. I wonder how it would go with a decent receiver and 4 channels using my decent transmitter.
Hey Dave, you already did that when it was on 2S, remember?
I'm kind of just limited to flying around and doing no aerobatics with this setup. And using quite a lot of power. See if I can do a landing. Fighting the wind a bit here. Yeah, I did a landing.
Conclusions. How did I get on with this little experiment? Well, I managed to get the Savage Bomber flying okay with the old radio gear from the F949S once I replaced the motors with a new strong 1020 motor. However, I was a little bit limited by the fact that I only had 3 channels, that's rudder and elevator, and I wasn't able to use the ailerons. Also, using the transmitter with mode 2 and the really bad dead spots, that didn't work very well either. If you view my maiden flight video for the F949S, you'll notice that once I turned off stabilisation, I had similar results to this. Not great. Having to fly like this limits the fun, so I don't think I'll carry on with this configuration. So, where to from here? What I think I'll do next is buy a 4-channel 1S receiver with built-in ESC, a couple of extra servos, and that will enable me to use the ailerons and pair to my FlySky transmitter. Stay tuned by subscribing to see what happens next. That's all for this video. Bye for now.